Welcome back, Friday Football Feast, segment number 2 with Dave Sinykin. You can hear him on Program Password at 1 o'clock, right, Dave?
1:30.
1:30, thank you. 1:30, Program Password, making your debut. It might turn out you're a Program Password savant and you never knew.
I wouldn't rule it out, but we'll see. See how it goes.
It's possible you're my teammate next year for the tournament.
I'd be down for that. Let's do it.
Yeah, I wouldn't. Totally not down.
See
for
how
that
I do first. You might need a little bit better.
Yeah, I might need a few more data points on that, Dave. What do the Vikings have in Aaron Jones?
My favorite Packer of the last 7 or 8 years. The only thing that you can say to knock Aaron Jones. Well, you can say two things. Obviously, he's been nicked up a little bit.
Yep.
He has coughed up the football a few times in some very key moments in playoff games, but the good far outweighs the bad. First of all, he'll be the most popular player in the locker room. He's just a great human being.
Yeah.
Just raised in a military family and just a solid person. But as a running back, he is, you've seen it. He's fantastic. He's so quick. He's so fast. He's explosive. He's still, at 28, 29, he still can give you anything you want. I mean, the Packers offense obviously kicked into gear when he got back on the field late in the season. And he's a terrific running back. And it's too bad it didn't work out financially. Green Bay wanted him to take a massive pay cut. I understand why he wouldn't. I understand why Green Bay had to wash the dollars. But no, he's going to do great things in purple as long as that quarterback can be somewhat average. Jones is a massive step up from what you guys had in the backfield a year ago.
Yeah, I think that's safe to say. You have to watch his reps. The Packers guarded his reps, very, very closely, and he still got dinged up from time to time and entered a lot of games questionable. But Aaron Jones, the baller, kid can play. When we saw him, and I've mentioned this a couple of times with PA, when we saw Aaron Jones, when he came on stage with us at the draft, I was shocked, Dave, at how slight of build he is because he plays way harder than a guy who's, I don't know, it looks like he's about 5'10", about 190 pounds. I mean, he is not a power back by any means, but he runs really hard.
Yeah, he does. You're right. He's a slight guy, and that's maybe where the injuries do come in. And you're right. He's not going to be a guy who's going to touch the ball 20 or 25 times. Ty Chandler will still be a major part of the backfield, I would assume. But he gives you that chance of taking it to the house whenever he touches the ball. He can catch the ball out of the backfield. And just, again, he's going to give the whole offense some juice because people believe in him. They follow his lead. And, he's a big part of what the Vikings are going to want to do offensively because he, as I said, he gives you that home run ability that they really lacked last year.
So your team poured Aaron Jones's money into Josh Jacobs instead, and they drafted power back Marshawn Lloyd. Talk to me about what you expect from that backfield this year.
Yeah, I'm excited. I really am. I hated to see Jones go, but a revamped backfield, that's really the one unknown about the offense. There's some questions on the offensive line as well that'll get worked out. Mm-hmm. But Josh Jacobs, 26, he's 3 years younger than Aaron Jones. He's a year removed for being the leading rusher in the NFL with the Raiders in 2022. Last year was a bad year, but you can look at a lot of the problems the Raiders had with their quarterback play and their offensive line play and their play calling with Josh McDaniel to answer some of those questions. He's had some injuries too. He's got to prove that he can stay healthy. But I'm excited about what Josh Jacobs can do. He's about to set the record for the most catches in the NFL for a receiver without scoring a touchdown. And Jordan Love has made it clear that he wants to make sure he gets to that score before he breaks that dubious record. But I think Marshawn Lloyd's going to quickly pass A.J. Dillon on the depth chart.
Agree.
I wouldn't be shocked if Dillon doesn't make this team.
Agree.
If Dillon looks good in the preseason, if Lloyd looks good in the preseason, I wouldn't be surprised if they cut ties with A.J. Dillon. I heard a number of big-time NFL college guys say Lloyd was their favorite running back in the draft. At least he's in the conversation, the top 3 or 4 guys. Averaged over 7 yards a carry at USC, and before that at South Carolina, he was really good as well. So I'm excited to watch him in the preseason, what kind of juice He has, and a whole new look backfield, so that's going to be fun to follow.
Dave Sinykin is the host of In the Zone. You'll hear him tomorrow morning at 8 o'clock. Also, Packer Preview, which I assume starts week 1 of the NFL season, right?
Well, I have to talk to Abbott. I'm hoping I'll start a week early because our first game is Friday night. So I'm hoping we can start the Sunday before.
Right.
But we haven't had that conversation yet.
All right. Well, we'll get to that point. Let's talk about your defense. Your defense was improved last year, but not necessarily great at anything. You were outside the top 10 in yards allowed, passing yards allowed, sacks, forced fumbles, and way down at 31st in interceptions and 28th in rushing yards allowed. So I think it was safe to say when it was an improved defense last year, but this was still not a dominating defense. Is there a reason for optimism? You poured draft picks. You poured 2 second-rounders, a third-rounder, and a fourth-rounder into your defense. Is there a reason for optimism on the Green Bay defense?
Yeah, it starts with the fact that they kicked Joe Barry to the curb finally and brought in a new defensive coordinator. Let me just take a step back. We haven't mentioned this. Green Bay is likely to be the youngest team in the NFL again, Charge. Mm-hmm. They have one player who's 30 years old, on their entire roster. It's Preston Smith, who's 31. Otherwise, nobody has cracked the 30 mark. So they're still a really young team. So growing pains to be expected. And on the defensive side of the ball, as you said, very young as well. But yes, there are reasons for optimism. Jeff Hafley was a really good defensive coach in San Francisco and Cleveland. Richard Sherman has called him the best defensive coach he's ever worked with. And so secondary is his specialty. That's where Green Bay needs to find improvement. They revamped the safety room by spending big money on Xavier McKinney, one of the prize free agent acquisitions from the Giants. He's only 25 and is already certainly a top 5 safety, if not better. So he'll be the quarterback of that defense. And then, as you said, 2 second-round picks who are likely to start from day one. Edgerrin Cooper, the middle linebacker, first linebacker taken in the draft from Texas A&M, who's fast as you can imagine. So he and Quay Walker suddenly give Green Bay those 2 athletic inside linebackers that you see from teams like San Francisco and Tampa Bay that I've coveted for years. They finally have youth, athleticism, and speed at that spot. And then they grabbed Javon Bullard from Georgia, the safety, who will also likely start opposite McKinney. Bullard was the MVP of the national championship game 2 years ago for Georgia and can also play some slot corner. So they had a couple of really good-looking, exciting young rookies to add to Xavier McKinney. And with Jeff Hafley at that single high look, he's going to play more of a 4-3. So suddenly guys like Rashawn Gary, Preston Smith, Lucas Van Ness are playing on the line instead of in the 3-4. So there's some adjustment there. But all the players, after going through OTAs and mini camps, have just been gushing about the communication with Hafley, the way they're going to play, much more aggressive, going after the quarterback. They were so worried about giving up the big play under Joe Barry and just let teams dink and dunk down the field. Those days are over. They're getting after the quarterback. They're willing to give up a play or two, knowing that they're going to have guys chasing down the quarterback. Biggest concern for me is that second cornerback spot opposite Jair Alexander. They didn't address it in the draft at all. They believe that either the oft-injured Eric Stokes, who's basically missed the last 2 years, former number 1 pick, or the rookie from last year, Carrington Valentine, who stepped up and actually played really well for a day 3 pick. One of those 2 guys has to step into that role because that's the one big question mark for me. Otherwise, they look young, they look deep, they look athletic, and I think they're excited to play for Hafley.
We only have about 2 minutes, Dave. Jair Alexander was very inconsistent last year. He's the highest paid cornerback in the league. I thought he was very inconsistent, and his PFF grade dropped from cornerback 4 2 years ago to last year, just down to 21. I don't have an answer for that, but maybe just changing a defensive coordinator is going to be enough to get him back on track. But he's supposed to be like the stalwart of your secondary.
Yeah, it's a good point, and I think Green Bay is expecting to see the Jair they saw from the first few years. Why? Well, for one thing, they're going to play a lot more man, which is the way he likes to play. I mean, Viking fans know that when JJ lines up against Jair, it's usually a really good matchup. JJ's had a few very quiet games against Alexander in the past, and Alexander likes that challenge of going up to the line and challenging a receiver and playing a strong man, and played a lot of zone last year, which just did not fit with the way he likes to play, attacking, aggressive. So I think the system will help. He knows it's a prove-it year, and he's got a real opportunity. he's very tight with Xavier McKinney. They're excited to be teammates. Just little things like that. Wanted to prove himself to his buddy, and it just has that feeling that, all right, I'm playing the style of ball I want to play now. This is the system that fits my game. I'm ready to show that I'm worth the dough. It was a bad year. He tried to make himself captain against Carolina.
Yeah, I remember that. Yes.
Suspended.
Yes.
Yeah, he missed 5
that.
or 6 games to injury. So you're right. I mean, he's got to come back and look like the Jair that he has. But I think it's everything's pointing to the way that he's bought in. He was at every single OTA, every mini camp, didn't miss a thing, and showed a lot of leadership. So I think he might have grown into his skin a little bit, and I think he's ready to take on that role as the leader of that defense.
All right, I only have time for one more question, Dave. And one more. I need a one-word answer. That's all we've got.
Okay.
Who wins the division?
Okay. Lions, likely. Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I think Green
right.
Bay will challenge. It's more than one word, but I think Detroit has to be the favorite.
Yeah, Detroit should be the favorite. It's not impossible. Packers will be close, but I think the Lions are the better team, even though your squad beat them in week 11 last year. Thank you, Dave. We'll listen to you on Program Password in a few hours, and we'll hear you tomorrow morning in the zone, 8:00.
Thanks, Charge. Have a great weekend.
Yeah, you too. Dave Sinykin, little Packer update for us. Vikings rival. When we come back, Eric Bjorgaard's the general manager of Metropolitan Ford in Eden Prairie, and I want to talk to him about today with this global IT failure.
Yeah.
Perfect timing. Banks are down, airlines down, airports down, rail systems down, payment systems down, Microsoft's down, CrowdStrike's down. It's a disaster from an IT standpoint. Eric Bjorgaard's already lived this for a month with car system software that was down for roughly a month in the summer. I want to hear more about that. I think it's just an amazing story that we don't know that much about. We'll catch up with Eric when we come back.
The Fan and BigDeck.com want to give you a chance to put $1,000 in your hand with the National Cash Contest. Go to KFAN.com, enter the keyword pay, and you might get paid $1,000. P-A-Y. The keyword is pay at KFAN.com.
9 to noon.
Rory McIlroy. Oh, man. Absolute meltdown on day 2.
That's kind of the theme of the Open right now.
Currently in 111th place, plus 8. His plus 8's going to turn into about 11 over the way this hole's going. It is disastrous turn for the young man. Well, I guess he's not that young anymore. As mentioned several times on this show, we are now joined by Eric Bjorgaard. He's the general manager of Metropolitan Ford in Eden Prairie. Listeners here, very familiar with Metropolitan Ford. We appreciate the long-time contributions to this station for Metropolitan Ford. But Eric, I want to talk to you today about the software hack of CDK Global that affected 15,000 dealerships earlier this summer and rendered many of the automated systems inoperable. Hi, Eric.
Me.
Good to talk to you. Now, was Metropolitan Ford one of the affected dealerships?
Yes, we were.
Talk to me about what that meant for you and what kind of systems got affected inside your dealership when these hackers took these elements offline.
Yeah, so to be clear, it's a CDK that got hacked, so it wasn't necessarily
Correct.
us. It's just the operating system that we use for almost everything in the dealership. I mean, if you go to my website and try and schedule an appointment for service, you couldn't do it. If you went to your mobile device and tried to make an appointment for service, you couldn't. If you use the Ford Pass app, which a lot of people use to schedule service, you couldn't. We spend tens of thousands of dollars in advertising, and it's all designed to get people to our website, to call, to do whatever, to generate a lead, and none of that stuff could get to us. So the people, they might have been looking like everything was normal on their end, but they'd send it to us, and we would have no idea.
Do you, I don't expect a dollars answer here, but this had to be, remarkably negatively impactful for your dealership, right? And you're just one dealership, but I got to believe that this cost you a lot of sales.
Yeah, and it's not just sales. I mean, it's
service.
If you drive in and try and get your car fixed.
Yeah,
I couldn't price it out. You tried to buy a part, like everything is built into our systems that, okay, we put in this information and it spits back out what the job costs, what the job pays, everything. So it was, you couldn't buy a part without, we figured out a way. We just had to do old school paper and pencil, same way with selling a car. Like most people, they say the price is, $45,000 for this car. No one cares. They want to know what their payments are.
Yeah.
The system we use for that, we couldn't do. So we're like writing it down on paper. Then we're Googling payment calculators and writing it on pens and paper. And it was trying, but in the car business, we've learned to get thick skin between COVID, chip shortage, union auto workers strike, now the CDK thing. You just kind of find a way to roll with the punches and make the best of whatever comes our way, because there's absolutely nothing you can do about it.
Now, it's all resolved now with CDK Global, but what was the time frame in which this hack took place and your systems were down?
It was a couple of weeks. It was went home on June 18th, I want to say, and everything was normal. Came in Wednesday to try and log in, and it just gave an error message. You have no idea what that means. It's not unusual to have a computer problem, but then you're starting to realize, this is worse. And then they actually came back online like 48 hours later, and then they got rehacked. So it was like we started to get a little bit of hope, like, oh, good, this isn't going to be that bad.
Yeah.
And then they shut it down again, and then we were down until just before 4th of July. I want to say like July 2nd, because I remember. I won't get into the boring details of how you'd have to do it, but we basically had to recreate every ticket that we did in June and then put it in the system to try and close out June. So I had employees here on July 4th while we were closed. We were in here doing work trying to get, June stuff done.
So you had to go to like paper and pencil? How are you, if I bought a car and, the car buying process largely automated for me is on my side of it. Were you getting out, finding old forms from the 90s and filling out stuff by hand? How are you overcoming this if you could not use your computer systems?
There are a few banks that we e-contract with, like Ford Motor Credit. We could do some of the stuff. We had to handwrite like title applications, purchase orders, but like the finance end of it, we were able to do once we knew it was going to be a while. We figured out some workarounds, and we were able to function decently. It's just, I think most people's biggest complaint with buying cars, besides the cost, is how long it takes. So now all of a sudden you're taking, say a normal deal takes an hour and a half. Now it's taking 2.5, and, 2 finance managers handwriting contracts. It takes a long time to sell more than a couple cars a day.
Yeah, I bet. So, there were real losses for you. I've seen estimates suggesting that this outage, which it sounds like it was roughly 3 weeks, cost dealerships $600 million.
Yeah, I've heard a lot of numbers out there. I don't know. For me personally, it was definitely an effect, but I think some places don't have the creativity that we have to kind of keep things going and doing more stuff by pencil and paper. Like we just, by the seat of our pants, we're like, hey, we got customers coming in. We're going to try and help them out the best we can. People need their cars fixed. We'll figure out some stuff on the back end. So we were able to function. It definitely hit us, but we tried to minimize it as best we could and take care of our customers. We've been, as you said, we've been doing this a long time. So it's take care of the customers first, and we'll figure out the dollars and cents later.
Eric Bjorgaard's the general manager of Metropolitan Ford in Eden Prairie. We're talking about the Russian software hack of CDK Global, a company that provides software for car dealerships. And ultimately, while CDK has not confirmed this, lots of reports out there that they paid a $25 million ransom to get their software back online from the hackers. And if you're in Russia, $25 million, you just became like the 9th wealthiest Russian. It's a pretty great deal for them. Not so great for you. And I imagine from your end, Eric, you're just like, I don't care what you have to do. Just get my systems back online, right?
Yeah, we were cheering from the sideline, like whatever. And once we had heard rumors that, and we had heard $5 million, we heard $60 million, I've saw $35 million that you're talking about now. So they paid something, and then it's not like boom, you hit a switch and it's all back on. There's so many systems inside of CDK. There's CDK Smart, there's eLeads, there's like 5 different things that we use for different things. So they're bringing them up slowly one at a time to make sure they don't get the rehack like they did before. So it wasn't like as soon as they paid it, they just turned the switch back on. It's like, okay, let's try this real slow with a couple dealers, see if it works. Now implement this. So it was a lot of trial and error, and there was still some scary moments even after that, because you want to make sure that, something doesn't get into our system that we don't want.
Yeah. So, and I know a little bit about this, just enough to be dangerous, Eric. And you talked about how 48 hours later, it came back online, but then they hacked it again. A lot of times, the hackers come in, they disable your systems. They say, hey, we want $25 million. And then the company goes, haha, we have backups. So they back up, they take their backups of all the software and they reload it all on. And the hackers go, well, yeah, but we already hacked your original stuff. We're going to hack your backup the same way. And now you're in a bind. And I think that's ultimately what happened here. And it's reports say cyber criminals in general last year extorted $1.1 billion in ransom payments across the globe last year. It's not uncommon, and people pay it all the time. Interesting that you guys got that you were affected by this. You had to be super nimble. You had to figure out how to do stuff, paper, pencil, but everything's back online now. Hopefully, you don't have to go back through this again, Eric. What kind of communication did you get from CDK Global? Right, because they're ultimately the ones responsible for this. As you mentioned, this isn't a Ford thing. This was not a Metropolitan Ford thing. This was from them. What were they saying to you during this process?
They were decently keeping us informed. I mean, they didn't know a whole lot, but they would give decent amount of updates to saying what's going on with it. I mean, it's the world we live in, like you said. I mean, you go through. People have asked, like, well, are you switching systems? You going to something new? It's like there's no one that can is impervious to getting hacked. I mean, Target, Twitter. I mean, United Healthcare just had a big one not long ago. I mean,
that's right.
You switch to someone else, and it's like a notch on these guys' belt. The bigger the company is, the more that they want to go hit them and say, hey, look what we did. We got United Healthcare, we got Target, we got Yahoo, we got AT&T, we got CDK.
Yeah, and United Healthcare paid $22 million in ransom, and it's there's a point at which your actuarials get together and they're like, yeah, pay the ransom. It's going to be way cheaper. And then of course you're refueling all these people who are getting the ransom money. You're like, oh, this works. Let's go hit the next big company. Unfortunately,
yeah. The one nice thing that it does for you is that it makes you, every time I log in now to my computer and you have 22 different things you got to do, and you got your passwords have to keep getting longer and longer.
Yep.
It doesn't bother me nearly as much as now when you get the push notifications every time you log in, and your password has to get longer and longer. And I'm like, okay, I get it now. I will do that and not complain about it anymore.
I know. Although that's not even really that's not even really the issue here. But yes, I hear. We've all had to go through that, right? With the long passwords, the secondary authentication, authenticating app, and all that stuff. It's a hassle. Eric, thanks for shedding some light on what went down with the automotive industry. This has been super helpful.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for having me.
Yep, Eric Bjorgaard, General Manager, Metropolitan Ford, and right on point today with the global IT failure of banks, airlines, airports, rail systems, Microsoft CrowdStrike. As far as I know, everything's still down.
Well, CrowdStrike, it is still down. Now, CrowdStrike, talking about the cyber attack specifically to CDK Global, they came out right away and they wanted you to know, they wanted everybody that this is not a cyber attack. Mm-hmm. So that this, again, I've seen AI. I don't exactly understand all the implications of it. Faulty update be damned. But as far as I've seen all updates, I saw, I think CCO, one of the local news, they were at the airport. It's still just a freaking zoo. I mean, we're so connected to our phones now that we got out of bed this morning, looked at our phones, and each of us, and many, many listening, probably saw the news. But how many people are still cruising into the airport thinking, hey, Friday, get out of town. It's not a holiday weekend. Yeah, I'll get there maybe 20, 25 minutes early.
Right.
And, if your flight hasn't been canceled, I assume they're either delaying or canceling all flights. I wonder how they do with that, but what an absolute rat's nest at MSP right now. Just people climbing on top of each other in there.
I know. It's gotta be brutal. And for some people, they really needed this flight. We don't want to see, it's one thing. It's, it might be your vacation, or maybe you're flying to go visit, somebody who's sick in the hospital. Yeah. I don't know. Maybe one of these flights is supposed to have somebody's donor organs on it. I mean, in some cases, these things are really, really important.
I wonder what the percentage, because there's a lot of people that had to fly for work or something, and ultimately a meeting gets moved, a meeting goes virtual or remote, and the trip just gets canceled, and you just go back home and you're chilling. But yeah, what are the percentage of people that fly that don't fly very often? People that are flying for the first time. And they get stuck with something like that. People that are flying out of urgent family or business related matters, and they got to get there.
It's there are already people for whom the whole airport experience is nothing but anxiety fueled awfulness.
Yeah.
The traffic, the waiting in lines, rubbing elbows with a bunch of strangers, getting hurtled around like cattle, like we
all that
are,
sounds
right?
icky.
You know, and then spending 3 hours on a flight, elbow to elbow with some stranger with a flatulence issue. The whole thing is, for many people, it's really difficult.
I wonder, and
now
I'm totally switching gears back to CDK and the cyber attack, though. I wish I knew more about cryptocurrency, because in some cases, you mentioned it with Bjorgaard, by paying them, you're reinforcing it. By paying them, you are effectively you're crying uncle, which is a painful experience, I think, for any company to have to do it. CDK just did it. You mentioned other companies have as well.
Yeah.
But it sounds like via crypto, you can't trace these things.
No, that's part of the whole point of it, right?
So the bad side of crypto and the people that are negative about it, and you feel more comfortable if there's a government name behind it. It feels official. The centralized banking conversations, digital currency is a conversation that's come up in recent years. But in terms of cryptocurrency, the bad side is the money laundering, crypto scams, or thefts like this in the pirating and cyber attack world. The good side of it is your money's safe, right? Your money is also unidentifiable and you can't access it. You have a 230 some character key that's associated with your crypto wallet.
Yeah.
So the good side is that
probably.
It's safe, 256, perfect. But the bad side is now effectively you don't know who did it and you can never even begin to trace who did it. They're completely in the wind.
Yeah. But that's part of the whole point of Bitcoin and cyber currency is, people can't identify you, just like cash. If you pull $100 out of your pocket, the government can't know who that, where that $100 is.
Sure.
So we operated anonymously with cash for thousands of years.
Right.
Right. So why can't crypto be the same way? I understand that.
See, this is where I went wrong in life, Charch, is while I was, because when I was growing up, it was like number munchers. It was like the Apple IIgs.
Number munchers.
You were learning.
I sold a lot of number munchers at Software Etc. in my day.
Yeah, like the monochrome Oregon Trail, things like that. I think Mist was big when I was in middle school. Mm-hmm. And I'm thinking to myself, these kids are nerds. These kids are nerds that are sitting there learning how to program in DOS, and then HTML, and people customizing their GeoCities pages. Those nerds, by the way, that were doing those supposedly nerdy things, not only are many of them tech billionaires in Palo Alto now, but they're the ones that have figured out how to steal and bilk millions of dollars from companies.
I don't think
the nerds won. Nerds have won, Charch.
Yeah, but these are, in this conversation, it's Russian nerds who are extorting our companies. I think, most of the kids who grew up coding in the 90s and the aughts are in a great position now because they've got a very valuable skill set until AI replaces them. And they've done great, but they've done it legally. This is obviously, these are overseas hackers in poor countries that can change their lives on one $25 million payment. Change all of our lives.
Let me correct myself. I'm not insinuating all nerds are international criminals.
Thank you. It's the way it sounded.
But their skill sets have brought them into the 21st century into a very nice spot. And I judged them wrong as a child. And I would like to apologize for that.
All right. That is.
What's the Russian word for nerds? Do we just assume it's Russians?
I don't know. Yeah, well, this is in this particular hack, the automotive hack, it is believed to be.
It's believed to be
Russians.
Okay.
Yeah. And, you'd like to think the Russian government isn't specifically doing it, but it might be the Russian government. We might be fueling the other side, financially fueling the other side of the Ukrainian war by paying ransom to these Russian hackers.
Do you think that'd be the first time our country has financed both sides of a conflict?
Oh, God.
Stick to sports.
Let's stick to sports. Let's do that. Let's stick to sports. You want to do Vikes Bites when we come back?
I can do a couple of more Vikes bits. I got some general news, like Twins back in the mix, stuff like that. Yeah, we can. Let's go back to sports, Charlie.
Yeah, let's. We'll stay in our lane when we come back.
Man.
9 to noon. News du Nord, a daily segment that is brought to you by the Casino at Canterbury Park, CanterburyPark.com. Live racing is in play, of course, but also feeling the felt. Poker, blackjack, table games, all year round. Having sips at chips, doing the whole thing, musical concerts. They got everything down there for the whole damn family. And it's the Casino at Canterbury Park, CanterburyPark.com. You mentioned it earlier. You were watching Rory.
Yeah, it's
bad.
It's worse now. Rory's 11 over, currently T140, 135. You know who's worse than Rory McIlroy today?
Who's that?
Tiger Woods, 14 over.
Yeah.
Here are the names who have done worse than Tiger Woods through two. Kieta Nakajima.
Okay.
Wyndham Clark, Denwit Borobunsub.
Nailed it.
Justin Leonard.
Okay.
Todd Hamilton.
Yeah.
And Oguri Iwasaki. Everybody else is better than Tiger Woods through a field of 154 golfers.
Well, and John Daly, Ernie Els.
Better.
They withdrew. They shot yesterday.
Oh, okay. They withdrew.
So they took one crack at it and said, nah, I don't got it. And they're out of the mix. Did you see the thing with Tiger, by the way, where Colin Montgomery was all over him about basically kind of the talker has emerged. So as a past champion, and Tiger has a fair number of those, he is exempt from any qualification process. He can play in all these tournaments, I think, until he's 60. And the hardcore golfers, I do not, is that just the number for all the tournaments? Is it major to major, whatever? But we know that Tiger's a past champion, so he doesn't need to qualify for these. That's how it works.
Yeah.
So it's kind of the conversation of, and Tiger's a disaster. 14 over, he's not going to make the cut. There's only 11 guys under par right now. The Open's always fascinating to me because as much as I enjoyed my time in London, it's always cloudy. There's always a mist. There's always windy. I mean, you picture
that's the beauty of it.
The serenity of Augusta. The antithesis of that is wherever they're playing overseas during the Open. But do you think, and maybe you don't think about it, do you care that Tiger is continuing to trot out there? The scores are getting higher and higher and higher. He looks to be less and less apt to even really be a factor and or compete. Do you care about that in terms of, I want to remember Tiger from all those amazing moments. I want to remember the red polo on Sundays. I want to remember the amazing runaway championships. And he's tarnishing his legacy by continuing to play now that he's a shell of his former self? Or are you totally cool with a guy who has certainly, by equity and by winning, earned the right to play until the freaking guy doesn't want to play anymore? That's where I'm at.
Yeah, Tiger does he gets to do whatever he wants.
Yeah.
When you've done what he's done for golf, and like anybody else, if you can qualify and you decide you want to play, you can. Here's Tiger Woods 2024 this year. He has played in 5 tournaments.
Okay.
Including this one, as we mentioned, in which he is going to miss the cut and badly. He played the Genesis Invitational in February and withdrew. He played Masters and finished 60th. He made the cut, to his credit. He made the cut.
I think he even had a really good first day at Augusta, if I remember correctly.
73 on his first day.
And then it went the other way.
Then PGA Championship in May, he missed the cut.
Okay.
U.S. Open, missed the cut. And now British Open, going to miss the cut, and as mentioned, badly. It's unfortunate that it's come to this for him. I'm sure he cares a lot about his sponsorship deals, which need him to be on tour and quasi-relevant.
But clearly,
he barely plays.
Well, I don't think whatever those sponsorship deals are, it's clear that he doesn't have to be on tour every week. I mean, you just named basically the 4 majors, and then the Genesis maybe as a warm up prior to Augusta. What if this? I got a text on it. It's not a bad point. Kind of the idea that maybe he does need to play more often. So if he can't, because kind of a reps and rhythm situation.
Yeah, for sure.
Where if he's just jumping out to play the majors and shake some hands and walk around the course, maybe that's going to inhibit his ability to get rhythm and find a shot of some sort to get back and compete. But Tiger can do what Tiger wants to do. Off course related things and otherwise. We got a car accident in the mix. We have various degrading injuries over the last 10 years. If he wants to go out and just, hack it around for a couple of days and then go home, I don't have a problem with that.
So you want to Tiger has I'm going back through his finishes.
Yeah.
Tiger's last top 20 finish, most recent, was November of 2022. It's something called the Hero World Challenge. Is that even an official event?
Watch it every year.
The big Hero, fly out to Albany.
I've been talking to you about it for years.
Hero World Challenge.
You don't know enough about upstate New York to appreciate the beauty at that time of year watching the Hero World Challenge.
Now, prior to that, so that was 2022.
Yeah, so nearly 2 years ago.
He finished 18th.
Yep.
To get to his next most recent top 20 finish for Tiger
when he won
Woods,
his major?
You got to go back to December of 2019 at the Hero World Challenge in Albany.
Oh, that's his course.
He owns that course.
Spot.
Owns it.
In 2019, I think that's when he won that Masters, right?
It is not. I got to go. May have to go back again. Let's go to the 2018 season. Also, a top 20 finish at the Hero World Challenge that year. Yeah, that you have to go back to the 2019.
2019. He did win the Masters. Yeah,
that's right. Yep.
And he was back. Remember?
Didn't it feel like it?
He was back.
Yeah.
And then I forget what year the car accident was. 2021 it was. So I don't, clearly
the wheels had come off even before the car accident, so to speak.
But I still say, like, the average rube. I am a golf rube.
Yeah.
And rube not affectionately in KFAN terms. I'm a rube in terms of a very limited understanding and very limited overall interest, to be honest with you.
And speaking of which, I should mention, Meat Sauce nice enough to text me. Apparently this Hero World Challenge is his own tournament. This is his thing.
Are you serious?
Yes. and I'm guessing, does everybody make the cut? And that's why, is there only 20 people in this thing? And that's why he keeps getting top 20s at the Hero World Challenge?
Well, we should have
known that,
Isn't it the live tournament? Like the live bit, they don't cut anybody, I don't think. Like it's kind of just a showcase. Maybe you should play in the live tourneys. But yeah, no, he's an all-timer. I will still watch Tiger if he's on TV. Even if it's to watch him plug one into the lake. Even if he's going to slice one into the woods. I don't care. It's Tiger. I bet there are still...
I do care.
There are a bunch of casuals. I don't care how bad he is. He did enough for me, the transformational aspect of what he did for golf as a younger, healthier, and lethal champion that he was. Do whatever you want, man. Walk off into the sunset. Sounds nice. But he gets that. Quit after 2019 if it was all about just getting another trophy. But now, who cares? Now there was people were asking, and I don't know if this is the case.
By the way, people roasting us. Apparently, this tournament of his is Albany, Bahamas, not Albany, New York, in November. We're so stupid. We're so dumb. And yes, Tiger just invites his friends. So yeah, that's the bit.
He's probably He's probably playing against Barkley. He's probably playing
right. So no wonder he keeps making the cut at his own tournament. Everybody makes the cut.
Hey,
and it's in the Bahamas. It's not in upstate New York in November.
If you have the cachet to have your own tournament, then whatever goes. However the entrance selections are made. But Tiger's out of the mix. Shane Lowry, I mentioned, there are only 11 guys under par, at least as I looked at it a few minutes ago.
Shane Lowry possibly one of them at this age?
Shane Lowry's he's your leader at 7 under, followed by Daniel
good for
Brown.
Him. Wow.
So the first three, Justin Rose. So you have you got the Irishman in Lowry, and then a couple of Englanders in Brown and Rose. Billy Horschel. If you had Billy Horschel, on your odds card, he's in fourth right now, 2 under, along with Burmester and Scotty Scheffler at 2 under. Scotty's never out of it these days.
So good.
It's unbelievable. Jason Day, haven't seen that name for a long time, the Aussie. Patrick Cantlay, he's the slowest golfer maybe in the history of the sport. Corey Connors and Xander Schauffele, all currently under par. So it's a tough one out there, but the Open in second round fashion taking place, probably finishing up. Given the hours of difference between us and those over the Atlantic.
I thought Shane Lowry's a little older. He's 37. I just looked him up.
He's only 37?
Yeah, I don't think he's 8. I don't know. He's your throwback golfer, the portly Shane Lowry with the big ZZ Top beard and everything. He's your throwback golfer to the pre-Tiger era.
So I got this. Each major has its own rules. So that's what I was curious about. The Open is 60. Tiger can play the Masters for the rest of his life.
Yeah, that's how the Masters works.
And
you
frankly,
win once,
he
you
should.
play forever.
At one point, I mean, just kind of the same way, like Golden Bear knocking it down the one fairway, or Arnold Palmer. Like at some point, we're going to get there with Tiger. I think that's super cool. Let him play until the wheels fall off.
He gets to do what he wants.
The Minnesota Twins, the All-Star break is ending for all of Major League Baseball,
except our team.
And we got to wait. We got to wait until tomorrow. The Brewers are in town, Charge. It's a weird situation in Major League Baseball. The Twins are actually slated to probably, they could win 5 or 6 more games. They're on pace for it than they were last year. Yet they're not leading the AL Central. They're 4.5 games back at this point behind Cleveland. The Brewers in town. Injury issues abound. Just trying to figure out this plantar fasciitis situation with Carlos Correa. Royce Lewis remaining on the IL at this point. Buxton appears to be the most stable and healthy of the group right now.
Go figure.
But big seasons thus far. You know, the Trevor Larnacks of the world, the secondary offensive assets. You have Miranda, Manny Margot. Some of these players really excelling this year. Willie Castro's been found money. He's been a revelation, playing every game, playing multiple spots, like 5 or 6 different positions. And they're ready to get on tap back against the Brewers tomorrow. Excited for the Twins. They're tough to watch these days, but they're winning games. They're firmly in wild card position as we speak.
The thing I'm going to remember about Castro, and it's sad that it's going to be this, but I will probably remember this about him for the rest of my life.
Okay.
Game in April, I want to say, where he was in the outfield.
Yeah.
And he lost track of how many outs there were. Fly ball to center. He gets under it.
He threw it away.
Starts trotting home.
Yeah.
Thinking that here's the which could happen, right?
Sure.
Okay, you can confuse that. There was 1 out. He was off. He was off by 2 outs. I mean, I could see getting,
Yeah, there's 2.
I'm forgetful. I could maybe lose an out here and there.
Sure.
He forgot 2 outs.
Well, that's the underrated. Yeah. That's the underrated aspect. Like in a game that has some of the elite, like whether it's the unmentioned, the unwritten rules aspect of it. That's certainly up for debate. For a long time, you could turn 2 without actually touching second base, stuff like that. But baseball's an elite mannerisms and bits sport, still even to this day. Underrated aspect. One of the outfielders just throwing a finger up after the out, just letting everybody else know in the outfield that there's 1, that there's 2. Just a little communication problem there. Did you see that final game of the Giants? Speaking of outfield gaffes, where Yastrzemski, it's Carl's grandson.
I didn't know there was a Yastrzemski in the league.
It's young Yas for the San Francisco Giants. I think it's Mike Yastrzemski. Mm-hmm. He gets a triple. And it's only a triple because I think it went over Manny Margot's head, just played it absolutely terrible. The team had just grinded their way. The Twins had just grinded to tie it up. Bottom of the 9th, it's a triple, and the relay is a complete freaking disaster. Comedy of errors style. Yastrzemski gets an inside the park home run, and they walk off on the Twins. That's how they went into the All-Star break. It was absolutely brutal. So that's going to be, and frankly, it's recency bias. That's what I'm going to remember from the first half of the season.
Is the inside the park home run ever not fascinating to watch?
Well, and in fairness, something stupid's usually got to happen.
Right.
Yeah.
That's the best part about it. If I got to watch the outcome of any one play without seeing the play, I want it to be an inside the park home run because something's gone haywire and it's going to be fascinating. It's the best play in baseball.
A couple other bits for you here. The Lynx won the other day, and I believe, let me see here, when is the All-Star game? Yeah, I think the All-Star game's tomorrow. It'll be Team USA, the USA versus the WNBA All-Stars, so that's tomorrow at 7:30, so a little bit of a chill and a party time for the WNBA. And Wolves Summer League finished yesterday, Charch. The Wolves beat the Rockets by 10. Something to watch. Terrence Shannon Jr., who I've absolutely adored through this process. Their summer league's done, by the way. That was their last game last night. But he had some sort of a toe or foot injury. Only played 7 minutes. Rob Dillingham still can't shoot the ball well enough, but he looks pretty damn good out there. Super athletic, and it was fun to catch him in Vegas for the Wolves Summer League.
Texter's telling us that the British Open now is got a 55-year-old limit, but Tiger got grandfathered in because at that time it was 60, but it's now dropped down to 55. Circling back on that.
This is more than I've ever wanted to know about age limits.
Exactly.
But I'm thankful for that. I appreciate it.
When we come back, we've been running our Vikes Bites bumper music back here this whole time. I think we should probably actually do that. Thousand Hills.
Yeah.
We want to be sure to get in our Thousand Hills opportunities as well. Let's talk a little Vikings when we come back. Is that cool?
I love that.
All right. Stay tuned.